Hello, I'm Franz Liszt. I was born in 1811, the only child to Adam and Anna in a village that was in Hungary at the time. My dad worked for a prince who was Joseph Haydn's last patron. Dad played the piano, violin, cello, and guitar. When I was 7, Dad started teaching me the piano, and when I was 8, I did some elementary composing, and at 9 started to appear in concerts. With the help of wealthy sponsors, I was sent to Vienna for music education. At 11 years old, I started performing in public concerts. And it was then I met Beethoven and Schubert. My concert supported the family. My first composition that was published, I wrote when I was 12 years old. You've been listening to it. It's called A Variation on a Waltz by Diabelli. My father died when I was 16, so my mother and I moved to Paris. When I was just 19, I met Berlioz the day before his Symphonie Fantastique premiered. Berlioz was an influence on my non-conforming style and some of my future works. 3 years later, at 22 years old, I made a piano transcription of Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique, which you've been listening to. I played this often in my concerts, which made Berlioz recognizable and popular. He was the first of many famous composers that I supported by playing or conducting their music and also giving them financial support. During this time of my life, I also developed a strong friendship with Frédéric Chopin. When I was 16, I was giving piano lessons to a 17-year-old daughter of a minister in the court of King Charles X of France. Her mother died, and we were found alone a lot. You can guess what we did when we were alone. But her father put an end to our wishes to get married. Just the first years of my philandering. At 21, I attended a charity concert organized by Niccolo Paganini, which inspired me to start my transcendental etudes. It is in various keys as a demonstration of piano virtuosity. This is similar to Paganini's Caprices that demonstrated his violin virtuosity. Number 1 in C major is playing now. At 22, I began an affair with a married woman, Marie Diago, who was 6 years older than me. She had 2 daughters already, and in our 6 years together, we had 3 children. In the beginning, we lived in Geneva, Switzerland, where I retired from playing to concentrate on composing. We ended up spending time in Venice, Rome, Genoa, Marseille, and eventually back to Paris. Just before turning 28, I started touring again to play concerts. I did this for 8 years. This ended up distancing me from Marie. At 35, I met and fell in love with a Polish princess, Caroline Wittgenstein, who was married. Caroline convinced me to stop touring and to concentrate on composing. We settled down in Weimar, Germany, as I became a full-time Kapellmeister in the court of the Grand Duchess Maria Pavlovna of Russia. This gave me time to compose. The Hungarian Rhapsodies became known as a signature work of mine. You've been listening to number 2 from 1847 when I was 36 years old. During this time, I also promoted the work of my good friend Richard Wagner by playing his music frequently in concerts. He was in exile and may have been forgotten otherwise. Caroline and I wanted to marry, and after years of trying, she got her first marriage annulled. We were to be married in Rome on my 50th birthday, 15 years after we fell in love. The day before the wedding, bowing to the political pressure of the Russian Tsar, the Pope reversed the annulment. Caroline and I agreed we could no longer live in sin if we couldn't marry. The remaining 24 years of my life, you might say, I repented for my numerous affairs and found religion. Although our upbringing as Catholics kept kept me and Caroline from converting to be Protestant, just in order to marry each other. When I was 54, I was ordained with the minor orders of porter, lector, exorcist, and acolyte. From then on, many called me Abbot Liszt. Those remaining years I spent traveling back and forth between Rome, Weimar, and Budapest, composing, performing, and conducting. You've been listening to one of my last famous works, Mephisto Waltz No. 3, which I composed when I was 71, 3 years before my death in 1886. Thank you for listening to me.